The next tool that I wanted to show before going over the nonlinear deformers was the Append to Polygon tool. We didn't go over this in class. So if you wanted to make a doorway, this could be a useful tool. So if we built a wall, we had some geometry subdivisions, then if we knocked a hole here, we've got a gap in between the walls. So, and a quick way to fill in this gap if fill hole doesn't work quite right. So if we hit F3, we could try fill hole first. So under the Polygon Mesh menu, there's the fill hole tool. So it doesn't quite work. So if we undo that, instead we go choose the Append to Polygon tool. And the way you append polygons is you choose one edge, then you append to the adjacent edge, and then you hit enter to lock in that append. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit G to repeat. And now I've done half the object. I'm going to select the faces, delete this, and I'm going to mirror this polygon across the x-axis. And now we've got an archway that we could use. Okay, so now let's talk about nonlinear deformers. In order to have a nonlinear deformer work as a potentially modeling tool, you need to have subdivisions for it to work. So we went over a bend in class. So if your bend comes in perpendicular to the direction, you can start the bend and then modify I'm rotating the modifier. So now it's affecting the object the way I wanted it to. So, and then we also mentioned that there's a high and low bound, so I can change how much is affecting the object. And also, to lock in that change, we delete the history of the object, and now that modification is locked into the object. So, I mean, really, I suggest playing with some of these modifiers. They're pretty wonderful in getting some really interesting looks. For example, the wave or the sine wave modifier will generate potentially a nice waved surface, or if you rotate it, nice curves here, and you can play with the wavelength, make it, iterate much more often. That's interesting. Didn't seem like it was working. There we go. Now it's working correctly. Could also try. So that was a sine wave, and this is a concentric wave, as if there was a drop of water. So you need to have enough geometry for these, as I was mentioning, for these to grab onto in order to see the effect. But anyways, those are the modifiers, and we also talked about, well, if I wanted to just nudge this around, if I had this object, and I'm going to smooth this one more time. So if we just wanted to modify this slightly, first I'm going to delete the history on it. And we talked about how using I'm hitting F2 on the keyboard under create deformers, the lattice deformer will allow us, we can specify a certain number of divisions, and then we can sort of grab these lattice points and modify this highly complex piece of geometry with these points. So you can create. We had a very symmetrical or object here, and now we're making it much less symmetrical and much more organic. Okay, so that's sort of a quick overview of the tools that we went over in class. So hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see you on Thursday.